Hi everyone, I'm Wendy. Welcome back to Show Me Mo Vegan. I'm having so much fun doing these What I Eat in a Day videos where I demonstrate different methods of following a whole food plant-based diet. I've done Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen, Dr. McDougall's Starch Solution, Dr. Bolsewitz's Plant Points, and today I'm going to attempt to follow a Nutritarian style of a whole food plant-based diet. This is Dr. Fuhrman's method of eating this way. Now, normally in a day, I'm not consciously thinking about any one of these methods, but over the last 2 years of following a whole food plant-based diet, I've picked up bits and pieces of each one. And ultimately, they all say basically the same thing. Eat a variety of whole fruits and vegetables, whole grains and beans, and maybe a few nuts and seeds. Yes, each method disagrees on little minor details, or one might emphasize one thing over another, but it all has the same end result. I do think it's nice to have all of these different options though, because each of our brains are wired a little differently, so one method may resonate with one person better than another. So that's why I just kind of pick and choose what works for me, and like I said, each of these ways of eating really kind of says the same thing. As the name implies, Dr. Fuhrman's Nutritarian diet focuses on nutrients. He emphasizes all the micronutrients that we're getting from whole plant foods. As I go through my day, I'll point out what Dr. Fuhrman refers to as G-bombs. These are the foods he recommends getting into your diet every day. That's greens, berries, onions, mushrooms, beans, and seeds. And I'll also show you a little bit of my day. So first things first, I always start out with water. And then before I eat anything, I start my day with a little yoga. Normally, I just do very basic, gentle morning stretches just to get my body moving. But I was feeling a little feisty this morning, so I worked on some headstands and balance. And now that I'm all stretched out and ready to go for the day, it's time for breakfast. Dr. Fuhrman recommends getting at least a cup of berries with breakfast, which I usually do. And berries is one of his G-bombs. Today, I'm doing a combination of blueberries and raspberries. And the oatmeal I'm using is steel-cut oats that I had batch cooked. I cook this in my Instant Pot, and I have a whole video showing how I do it. But basically, I do 2 cups of steel-cut oats with 5 cups of water. I cook that in my Instant Pot anywhere from 6 to 8 minutes at high pressure. And then once that's done cooking, I mix in a can of pumpkin puree. I just love that this makes my oatmeal really nice and creamy, plus it's a little extra nutrition. And then for a little sweetness, I chop up 5 medjool dates and mix that in. This batch of oatmeal is enough for me for 5 days. So I keep it in the fridge and then I scoop it out with whatever fruit I'm using, and then I'll heat that up. Dr. Fuhrman also recommends some omega-3 rich seeds with your oatmeal. He has a video on YouTube where he uses a combination of hemp seeds, chia seeds, and flax seeds. Today I'm just doing flaxseed and chia seed. And of course, seeds are another one of the G-bombs. So that's how I make my oatmeal every day, and Dr. Fuhrman recommends a pretty light breakfast of just oatmeal and berries, but I always also have a smoothie, so I made one of those as well. But this includes lots of greens, which is another one of the G-bombs, and Dr. Fuhrman recommends getting at least about 1 pound of non-starchy vegetables in a day, so this is my head start on that. I've got greens in here as well as celery and cucumbers, and then I also add soybeans, another one of the G-bombs, and then I add some spices. I use amla powder, ginger powder, turmeric, black pepper, and dulse flakes. By the way, if you're not used to having smoothies with this much greens or other vegetables, this probably won't taste very good to you. But I've been having these for, I think, about a year now, and I absolutely love them. It's so refreshing to me, and I don't need a ton of fruit to make it sweet. One way to make this smoothie even more delicious is to use a little bit of plant-based milk. A couple weeks ago, I did a video showing how to make almond milk, and I put just a little bit in my smoothie, and it made it taste like a milkshake to me, basically. I know that sounds crazy, but that's what it seemed like to me. So I'll go eat my breakfast, and then it's off to my work from home office. A nutritarian diet includes a combination of both raw and cooked vegetables. So what a lot of people do is they replace one meal with a giant salad. Dr. Fuhrman also recommends things like stir fries and soups. So I'm going to do a combination of all of that today. For lunch, I'm having both a salad and a stir fry. I'm starting with a variety of different lettuces, and I like to chop my lettuce up a little bit. Some people have those fancy bowls where you can make a chopped salad, but I'm a little old school. I don't have one of those. I'm just using a regular cutting board and knife. So I like to chop up my lettuce so it's a little easier to eat. And then I'll be adding all kinds of different vegetables. I have some celery and carrots, some bell peppers, cucumbers, and tomatoes. I'm also adding some chopped red onion to my salad. It's nice to have both cooked and raw onions in your diet because you get really great benefits from the raw onion. Plus, it makes your salad extra delicious. And onions are another one of the G-bombs. Usually on a nutritarian diet, you would have a nut or seed-based dressing. I don't feel like blending one up today, so I'm just going to use a little bit of balsamic vinegar, and then I'll sprinkle some seeds on top. I'll add a few hemp seeds and pumpkin seeds. And to go along with that, I'm having my sweet and sour chickpeas. This is a recipe I've shared on the channel before. I'll put a link to that video so you can see how it's made. It includes some more G-bombs. Technically, the broccolini in here would count as more greens. We've got the chickpeas, which are another bean. I have oyster mushrooms in here and onions. Plus, I like to sprinkle just a few sesame seeds on top. And then I'm eating it with sorghum, which is a gluten-free whole grain. Along with lunch, I'm having an apple. Dr. Fuhrman recommends about 3 pieces of fruit a day. For dinner, I'm having leftover vegetable bean soup. This is a pretty simple soup. I plan to show how I made this in another video. If I haven't put that up already, stay tuned for that. It's a pretty simple soup. It just has white beans, carrot, celery, and onion, some kale, and a few herbs. So this soup has 3 G-bombs in it. We've got the beans, the greens, and onions again. And I had a little bit of leftover purple cabbage that I sauteed with some onions. I just did a quick water saute and added a little bit of black pepper, garlic, and apple cider vinegar. And for dipping in my soup, I have some homemade whole wheat bread. Dr. Fuhrman emphasizes getting most of your whole grains in their whole intact form, like the sorghum that I had with lunch. If you choose to consume bread, he recommends using sprouted or whole grain flours, particularly stone ground flours. This is my mom's recipe. This one is made with whole wheat. Finally, it's summertime, so I'm having some watermelon. For a sweet treat after dinner, I'm gonna have a medjool date with a few walnuts and pecans. Nuts are included in the seeds category from Dr. Fuhrman's G-bombs. So that was my version of a nutritarian diet. I would argue this is probably one of the more strict versions of a whole food plant-based diet because it's SOS free. That means it's free of sugar, oil, and salt. Probably the only diet stricter would be a True North diet, aka water-only fasting. Even though it may seem a little more restrictive, if you're coming from a standard American diet, any form of a whole food plant-based diet is pretty extreme. But whatever type of plant-based diet you follow, as I've been saying in all of these videos, the main goal is simply to eat more plants. The more whole plant foods that we incorporate into our diet, the healthier we seem to be. If this was helpful, hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for more whole food vegan meal ideas. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.